Elena. Now, it's day 2 of the Breivik trial in Oslo, and of course, a lot of the papers talking about that today.
Of course they are. Now, should he be given a public platform like this trial on which he can expound his extremist and racist beliefs, even if they're not being broadcast on TV, they're still going to get into the press, they're still going to possibly influence people. Should he have this platform at all? Well, the Times strongly thinks he should not. They say this trial is not about Breivik, whose responsibility is not in question. They're deciding, of course, whether he was sane or not, but he completely admits that he was responsible for the killings. So why carry out this entire trial process, they're asking? It's just punishment for the relatives of the victims who will have to listen to him justify their loved ones' deaths. He apparently plans even to call in his defence Islamists and people with other extremist beliefs to show that he's not the only one who shares that worldview, trying to show that he's not insane. Now, the Times says that's outrageous. He's just trying to abuse the judicial process, turn it into a malevolent pantomime, they say, and the trial just shouldn't be happening for that reason. The Independent, though, on the other hand, says that it's a mark of how dignified Norway is and how well they're recovering from what happened last July, that the trial is going ahead as if he were any other defendant. They say it's the best way for Norway to heal its wounds if this is all aired in public like this. And just the best thing is not to give him any special treatment, regardless of what he did. There's another question, though, of course, that all this poses, which is Norway really as tolerant a society as all that? Are his beliefs shared within Norway? There's a piece asking this in The Guardian, which quite surprisingly says that they actually might be more widely shared than we imagine. The writer, who is Norwegian in that article, says that she hoped after last July that at least the right-wing rhetoric, anti-immigration rhetoric of some politicians in Norway would be toned down as a consequence. But she hasn't really seen that. She says right-wing parties there are still doing things like backing moves to deport the children of Ethiopian refugees who've grown up in Norway, which she sees as strongly intolerant. And also right-wing hate groups continue to flourish on the internet, including websites that actually support Breivik. So she says that if Norway is such a tolerant society as all that, then this wouldn't be happening. Norwegians shouldn't be saying, well, at least we're carrying on as normal despite Breivik. They should be saying this is a wake-up call.
Now, you're also looking at a controversial story from Israel.
Yes, now the New York Times is looking at the case of a viral video that spread around the internet, which shows an Israeli IDF soldier sort of hitting a Danish pro-Palestinian protester in the head with the butt of his rifle. Now, this has caused enough controversy that the Danish government has asked the Israeli government to explain it. And the New York Times says it's part of a general wave of much stronger reaction by Israel against foreign pro-Palestinian protesters who want to travel there. Of course, at the weekend, scores were blocked from travelling to Israel from airports all over Europe. Airlines refused to carry them after Israel said anyone known to be a pro-Palestinian activist wouldn't be allowed into the country, even though they just wanted to attend peaceful cultural events. Now, the New York Times says in its blog that the soldier involved in this very controversial video says that it's been edited to make him look worse, and so he might have a defence, that maybe he should get the benefit of the doubt even, but that certainly doesn't convince the left-wing Israeli paper Haaretz, which says that the Israeli army, the IDF, sort of just deals with this kind of thing as if it were an image problem, just trying to calm down the PR fallout, whereas actually they should realise it's a cultural problem. They should think about the language that Israeli politicians use to talk about pro-Palestinian foreign activists. They call them things like provocateurs, anarchists even, and that sort of language is legitimising Israeli soldiers being violent towards them, at least according to Haaretz.
Now, in the US, the country's biggest gun lobby held its annual meeting this weekend, and The Guardian is looking at its growing political power in, of course, what is an election year.
Yes, the NRA had their annual meeting in Missouri at the weekend, and The Guardian says essentially it's down to cash. The amount of money they have to spend on lobbying politicians means that gun laws are bound to be an election issue this year, even though Obama has essentially done nothing to touch them during his 4 years in power. They're convinced he's got a secret anti-gun law agenda, essentially, and if re-elected, he's going to try and revoke people's right to own a gun. That means they're spending millions of dollars, or they will be spending millions of dollars funding Mitt Romney in the general election, and that could be decisive. Lots of Democrats, according to them, believe that the NRA might be responsible for George Bush winning in the year 2000, because apparently they spent so much money in Al Gore's home state, Tennessee, that he lost that state, and with it the election. At least according to The Guardian. So amazing how much power that lobby group can have, despite the fact that they say polls show a majority of Americans actually want stricter gun laws. Obviously, they don't quite have such powerful lobby groups. There's also an interesting piece in the Daily Beast written at that same gun fair about how arms manufacturers are trying to make their products more appealing to women. So if you've ever wanted one, Claire, you can apparently buy a bra that carries a little pistol around inside of it, quite what that would be when you would want
Not
to be
tempted,
wearing that.
thank you very much,
I'm
no.
not sure, but you can also buy a pink revolver that goes into a pink alligator skin handbag case. And apparently it's a growing trend among gun manufacturers. They are managing to sell more and more of their products to young women with these kind of
Fashion
things.
accessory, that's rather worrying, isn't
Yes,
it?
I think it might be one of those only in America things. I quite can't imagine it catching on here, for example. But apparently it's all the trend in certain parts of the Midwest anyway.
All right, thank you very much, Elena, for running us through the international newspapers. You're watching live from Paris. Do stay with us. A reminder of